Hello everyone, my name is Dominic Santiago, and today I'm here to present to you my final pitch for my project titled Red Dead Redemption. And it's going to be a film adaptation, and it's approximately going to be $25 million budget. So, the logline for Red Dead Redemption is that it's about a retired outlaw who has to hunt down the last remaining members of his former gang, and he has to do this in order to get his family back from Bureau of Investigation agents. So, broad overview. The tone of Red Dead Redemption is an intense and gritty tale interspersed with moments of dark comedy. What is it? So, what Red Dead Redemption is, it's an epic western based off of the popular IP, which is a video game. Now, my target audience for this project is that it's going to be targeted towards the male demographic between 18 to 50. I believe that this is the right audience because men around that age are looking for films with action-packed moments, but also I think that they're also looking for something a little more deeper, something that will get them attached to what's going on in the story. So I feel like that this story has all of it. It has action-packed moments, an emotional story, and great characters at the heart of it. The presence in the market. So, Red Dead Redemption is based off of a highly successful IP, and it is one of the most critically acclaimed games of all time. And as of 2017, it has sold around 15 million copies. The story. So, the setup is that it takes place in the American frontier during 1911, and that is the time where the Wild West is coming to an end and civilization is on the horizon, as industrialization has been starting in these small American towns. So basically, the age of the outlaws has passed. The tone and the hook. Now, Red Dead Redemption, it's an emotional tale of a man seeking revenge and redemption against those who wronged him in his past, and it is based off of so the hook of it is that the Bureau of Investigation agents, which is the early incarnation of the FBI before it became the FBI, they take John Marston, the main protagonist's family, away from him in order to force him to hunt down his former brothers in arms. The inciting incident is that before the story starts, John is already taken away from his family, and they're already forcing him to hunt down his first target, Bill Williamson. So, Act 1 is John has to go to Fort Mercer in order to apprehend his old friend, Bill Williamson. When he's there, he gets shot and left for dead, but a local rancher family by the name of the McFarlands helps nurse John back to health. So after that, John has to work with Marshall Lee Johnson, con artist Nigel West Dickens, alcoholic arms dealer Irish, and grave robber Seth in order to gain some help in order to assault Bill's fortress in Fort Mercer. So eventually he does favors for all the men, and they help him out in assaulting Fort Mercer. Now, when they assault Fort Mercer, John discovers that Bill has fled to Mexico, and he is seeking the help from his old friend and John's second target, Javier Escuela. Act 2. John has to travel to Mexico in order to track down Bill and Javier. So he has to work for the corrupt leader of the Mexican army, Colonel Allende. So he also helps legendary gunslinger Landon Ricketts help out the rebellion that takes place in Mexico, because there's a bloody civil war going on between the Mexican army and the rebellion. So John has been playing both sides in order to get more information of where Bill and Javier is. So eventually, the Mexican army betray John and they attempt to kill him. But the rebel leader, Abraham Reyes, and his lover, Luisa, help rescue John, and basically John starts to work for the rebellion now. Now, eventually he learns the whereabouts of Javier, who reveals that Colonel Allende has been housing Bill this whole time. So, after John apprehends Javier and turns him into the Bureau agents, he, Reyes, and Luisa go to storm the Colonel's palace. So Luisa is killed in the ensuing gunfight, and Allende and Bill try to escape, but John catches up to them, and basically John and Reyes execute Bill and Reyes respectively. And Reyes becomes the leader of Mexico now, and John has to travel back to Blackwater in order to help the Bureau agents hunt down his father figure and the final target, which is Dutch Van der Linde, who is the leader of the Van der Linde gang that John was a part of. Act 3. So John works with the Bureau agents in order to apprehend Dutch. John also thwarts Dutch's attempt to rob the Blackwater Bank, and he also survives multiple ambushes that Dutch has set up in order to kill John. After John discovers Dutch's fortress in the Snowy Mountains, he works with Agents Ross and his partner Agent Fordham, and they enlist the help of the U.S. Army in order to go assault Dutch's fortress in the Snowy Mountains. So, in the ensuing gunfight at Dutch's fortress, John chases Dutch, who is mortally wounded, and he corners him on a cliffside. And Dutch basically finally realizes the futility of all of his life's work, and that basically his time is ended. Before he commits suicide by falling off a cliff, he tells John that the Bureau would never let his family go, and that they will eventually hunt him down. And basically, after John has committed, John completes his task, he gets to return home to his wife, Abigail, and his son, Jack. So John has decided to hang up the outlaw lifestyle for good this time in order to spend the rest of his days with his family. His peace is unfortunately cut short when Agent Ross and the U.S. Army come to kill him and his family. Since John is the last remaining member of the Van der Linde gang, they have come to finish the job. And in the ensuing gunfight, John has to defend his family and try to get him out of there. But he fails as the U.S. Army kill Abigail and Jack, forcing John to flee. So it's 3 years later, and John tracks down Agent Ross, and he kills him in a duel, and he finally avenges his family. And that is the end of the story. Now, the characters that inhabit Red Dead Redemption. The main protagonist, his name is John Marston, and basically think of him as a Clint Eastwood type of outlaw. Very serious. He doesn't take crap from others. He has little patience for those who waste his time, and he also is a very highly sarcastic individual. So John, his backstory is that he was born to a Scottish immigrant father, and his mother was a prostitute who died in childbirth. His father died when he was 8, and that left him an orphan. And a couple years later, he is saved by Dutch Van der Linde, who takes him in, and together they form the Van der Linde gang. Now, John, what his flaws are is that he's very quick to anger, and basically he has very little tolerance for those who try to waste his time, and he has no remorse for killing those that he deems necessary. But basically what he needs to learn is, he needs to learn how to work with the Bureau agents, or else he will never get his family back. Because John has a huge problem with authority. That's how Dutch raised him, is to defy the law. The main antagonist of the story is Edgar Ross. Now think of Edgar Ross as Michael Shannon's character from The Shape of Water, a corrupt agent who is willing to do what is necessary in order to accomplish his goals. Now what Ross wants is that he basically wants to end the Van der Linde gang, finish off the remaining members, and he sends John to do his dirty work for him. Now, Edgar Ross, he's the corrupt head of the Bureau of Investigation, like I said, which is the early incarnation of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And he has no qualms of making others do his dirty work, and basically he is willing to betray anyone in order to accomplish his goals. Now, Ross used to be a Pinkerton agent until the Pinkertons basically went out of business and the Bureau of Investigation was established. Now, what Edgar's flaw is that basically he has no moral limits as a federal agent of the law. So basically this causes major friction between him and John, and this is what causes problems between them because John doesn't really want to kill his old friends, but Ross is making him do it. And basically he has he doesn't care about John at all. So they have a very sour relationship, and basically he wants all the fame and glory. Bill Williamson. Now, this is the first target that John has to hunt down. Bill is John's old friend from the Vanderlyn gang, and basically what Bill wants is that he wants to become the most notorious outlaw in the Wild West. And basically what drives Bill in the story is that he was always jealous of John, so basically they have developed a sort of rivalry with each other. Now, Bill, he's a ruthless and power-hungry individual. He used to be in the army until he was dishonorably discharged for murder, and after that he fell in with the Vanderlyn gang, and after the Vanderlyn gang fell apart, he formed his own gang. Now, Bill's jealousy rises from the fact that basically when John and Bill was in the gang, Bill had an intimate relationship with John's future wife Abigail, and this is why Bill hates John so bad. Now, Bill's flaw is that he's a highly impulsive person, and this causes him to make stupid decisions that get him closer and closer to being finally apprehended by the law. Javier Escuela. He is the second target that John has to hunt down, and basically Javier and John were basically like brothers, and they're the ones that have the closest relationship. What Javier wants is to survive by any means necessary, and he also wants to remain loyal to Dutch. Now, Javier is an idealistic man, and basically he was born in Mexico, and his father was a bounty hunter and revolutionary. And basically what Javier's flaw is as a person is that he doesn't realize that his time is at an end, and that there's nothing he can do to fight the growing tide of civilization expanding. Dutch Vanderlyn, the father figure and leader of the Vanderlyn gang, what he wants is he wants the world to resort back to a savage utopia type of living where man has to fight for himself in order to survive. And basically one where the land is free from government control. And basically, so Dutch, he was born in 1858. His father was killed during the American Civil War at Gettysburg, and he formed the Vanderlyn gang when he met his friend Hosea Matthews. So eventually, as Dutch's plans kept failing and failing, the gang started to fall, and he started to lose his mind, which eventually led to the downfall of the Vanderlyn gang. Now, his flaw as a person is that he is trying to fight civilization expanding, and he doesn't realize that basically the age of the outlaws has ended. So he cannot fight his own nature to oppress government control. That's who he always was as a person. He always fought against government control, and he really wanted man to basically fight to survive for their own. Packaging. So the writers, I believe, that would be really good for this film would be Quentin Tarantino. He worked on The Hateful Eight, Django Unchained, which are two westerns as well, and Inglourious Basterds. Those are his last three movies. The reason why I think Quentin would fit is because his dialogue is very, very engaging, and he knows how to write